Okay, we are going to finish the Unit 5 notes on Manifest Destiny. So we start at point 5 on the notes. The annexation of Texas led to war with Mexico. Remember, Polk in the election of 1844 had promised Texas, Oregon, and California. Obviously, Texas had been annexed before he became president by John Tyler. Oregon was signed over, was split with the British. Polk also wanted California. First thing he does is sends a dude over to Mexico, a guy called John Slidell. Slidell was authorized to pay Mexico money for California Mexico doesn't want to sell. So Polk has a problem because he's promised California, and at this point he knows that he needs to go to war with Mexico. As a result, he needs to provoke Mexico. He knows he can't attack Mexico because anti-slavery groups in the country would be against just an outright attack on Mexico, and they would see that as just a grab for Mexican territory out west. So Polk is kind of sneaky. What he does is he takes Zachary Taylor and he sends him into the disputed territory on the map. Now this is area that the United States claimed, and it's area that Mexico claimed. Obviously Mexico's attitude is going to be, when they see American troops in this area, they're going to treat them in a hostile fashion, and Mexican troops open fire on the United States troops. At that point, James Polk is able to go back to the US Congress and claim that Mexican soldiers have fired upon Americans on American soil. And this is enough to get Congress to declare war on Mexico. A little known representative called Abraham Lincoln is going to oppose this. So Lincoln is going to get up and he is going to introduce a strange set of resolutions called the spot resolutions. Basically, after while Polk is asking for a declaration of war, Lincoln asks to know the precise spot on American soil where blood was spilled. Lincoln and other Northern Whigs are suspicious, and they suspect that James Polk has deliberately sent Taylor into disputed territory to provoke Mexico. Now, most congressmen at the time dismissed Lincoln's fears, and the United States is going to declare war on Mexico. The war with Mexico is not our country's finest hour. It is going to split both political parties. Northern Whigs are very much against the war. Southern Democrats are all in favor of the war. The Northern Whigs do speak out against the war. We've already talked about the example of Lincoln and the spot resolutions. The problem for the Northern Whigs is that they don't want to suffer the same fate as the Federalists. I keep being interrupted. They don't want to suffer the same fate as the Federalists. The Federalists, if you remember, had opposed the War of 1812, and that had ended their party. The good news for AP students and for regular students is they don't need to know too much about the Mexican-American War. All we are going to say is that the war takes a couple of years. The United States defeats Mexico. It's really not a fair fight. It is not our country's finest hour. This map gives you some indication of the U.S. strategy. The U.S. invades by land through Texas. It invades through the Gulf of Mexico, and it's the Navy is also going to invade on the West Coast in California. One of the interesting things about the war, this is the first war that is reported on by the new technology of the telegraph. This picture by Richard Caton Woodville, it's called War News from Mexico, shows the surprise of the people reading about the war and a very deliberate inclusion of 2 African Americans because slavery, of course, is going to be impacted by this war. As a result of losing the war, Mexico is forced to sign the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. In this treaty, they're going to give up a ton of land called the Mexican Cession. The United States has to pay Mexico $15 million for this land, considerably less than what they were prepared to offer in the Slidell mission. And in 1853, we're also going to purchase a little bit more land from Mexico called the Gadsden Purchase. So you can see the Mexican Cession is here in this kind of pinkish color. It's a huge area of land. All right, and that is won from Mexico in the Mexican-American War, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and the Gadsden Purchase purchased from Mexico in 1853. Now, as I said, the war with Mexico is not our country's finest hour. Most historians view the United States as acting in an imperialist, bullying fashion at this point. But if you believe in karma, karma comes back to haunt us. Because the Mexican War and the land that we get from Mexico proves to be quite a poisoned chalice. If you remember, we had tried to avoid the debate over slavery. In the late 1830s, Congress had the gag rule, where anti-slavery petitions were deliberately not discussed. In the late 1830s and the early 1840s, politicians like Jackson, Van Buren had particularly avoided dealing with Texas, knowing that that would renew the sectional debate over slavery. Once James Polk was elected, that's thrown out the window. John Tyler pushes through the annexation of Texas. This renews the sectional debate over slavery, and the guy who is usually credited with introducing and renewing the sectional debate over slavery is a guy called David Wilmot. David Wilmot is this handsome chappie right here, and underneath it is a photograph of what's called the Wilmot Proviso. In early 1846, James Polk had requested funds for any treaty that would end the war with Mexico. Wilmot and a couple of other Northern Democrats sponsored a bill that wanted to tag on a condition to the negotiations with Mexico. And the proviso basically said that any territory won from Mexico was going to be slave-free. Obviously, this is going to cause a firestorm in Congress. The matter actually passed the House of Representatives. However, the Senate voted against the Wilmot Proviso. What I would like you to do for next class is to read the Wilmot Proviso and answer the 3 questions and bring your answers and put them into the tray first thing next class.